Hello, everybody. I am Caitlin Smith Course. I'm a light worker, a tarot intuitive, and a Reiki master. And this is my weekly reminders from Spirit. So this week I'm going to dive into the energies of this beautiful full moon in Aries that we have coming up on the 20th. And also just any other reminders that Spirit wants you to know at this time, looking at this week ahead. So the full moon in Aries that we have coming up here, it is also sometimes called a blood moon or a hunter's moon, and that just means that it's the first full moon in autumn. And if you are in Aries, you might really be feeling this full moon extra intense, because I feel that some people are going to be called to be a little bit more social at this time. The energies are at its peak. During the full moon, it's like that cosmic spotlight on things that have been working for us, things that haven't, what do we need to let go, and sometimes that comes through through our emotions or the way that we process information, and sometimes that comes out as us having a little outburst, an emotional, energetic outburst. Sometimes that does happen. Sometimes we can really feel that fiery intenseness coming through. So for the full moon coming up, this is from the Moonology Oracle deck by Yasmin Boland, and this is a fiery climax approaches full moon in Aries. So I specifically pulled this card out because this is one of the energies that we're probably going to be dealing with this week. So figuring out how to best navigate this fiery climax that we might be feeling. So some of you may feel called to do a burning release ceremony. And if you're not familiar with that, it involves oftentimes journaling a little bit of what you want to release and then burning the paper. So if you're going to be doing it in your house, remember to do it in the sink or the bathtub, somewhere where there's water right by. And if you're going to do it outside, just make sure that it's not, super windy that night. So I just want to emphasize caution, being cautious with the full moon, because sometimes full moons are also known as times where the energy is a little bit crazy. Some odd things can happen. So this is also your reminder from Spirit to be texting your friends if you're planning on going out and about, your friends or your family, letting them know where you are. If you're planning on getting a few drinks, you're feeling called to be social, then just remember to call that cab or an Uber, or reach out to the family member or friend to give you a ride home. Just using a little bit of caution at this time, because the energy can be a little bit amplified, I'll say. So we also have at this time the sun in Libra. And so anytime we have a full moon, we also have what is called the sun is in opposition. So we have the full moon in Aries and the sun in Libra. So what this can really mean is you might be feeling feelings of empathy or diplomacy from the sign of Libra, from the sun in Libra. And from the full moon in Aries, you might be feeling a little bit more of that self-confidence and that authenticity. So really, it's kind of those signs, juxtapositions, feeling called to be a little bit more social, but then also having that self-interest. So one of the things that I had talked about recently over the past couple of weeks has been doing some journaling about boundaries and how we can set up boundaries. So making sure that we are having certain things in place to protect our own energetic integrity, and then also holding space for others at the same time. One other thing that we might be feeling with this full moon is there might be some things boiling up to the surface. A fiery climax approaches. So if you're in a relationship or friendship, any relationship that you might have with somebody else, and there's something that was unresolved or unsettled, or something was left unspoken, it might come up at this time. So don't be surprised at that. Let's just remember to consider how we present our side, our own feelings, so that we're doing it, so that we're staying authentic to who we are and where we can maintain our own boundaries, but we're also respecting the integrity of others. Another thing that you might be called to do at this time is recognizing when to ask for help. So I know, especially as if you're in any type of caretaker role, whether that be a mother or a father or husband, wife, you have to take care of somebody else, we sometimes feel the need to take on all the burdens as our own, and we don't like asking for help because we don't want to burden other people with certain responsibilities that we feel that we could handle. However, at this time, we're really being called to recognize what little things we can ask others to help us with, to lighten our load. So that if that applies to you, definitely consider what types of things you can be doing to lighten your load. Maybe it's creating a chore chart. Maybe you are asking your significant other or your children to help out with some chores a little bit more. Maybe you are delegating certain tasks to your siblings to help out with a parent that might be in need. Not everything is meant for you to be taken on your own. You might be feeling called to be a little bit more social, and you can utilize this energy beautifully when you involve yourself in your community. Now, keep in mind that if you are already involved in the community and you feel like you're involved a little bit too much, this is your call to step back. So finding that balance. With the Sun in Libra, we're also still dealing with the energies of needing our lives to be balanced in all the different areas. So community is one of those areas. Do we need to be more involved? Maybe we need to be less involved. So really diving into that and thinking about how you can utilize this energy to better benefit the balances in your life. So if you really enjoy doing the journaling exercises, then one of the journaling questions that I recommend really diving into is, have I shown too much dependence in any area of my life? Is there an area where I crave more independence? Also, with any full moon, I think it's important. What are you ready to release at this time? And also, how has holding on to anger or resentment harmed me? So if there is anybody or any situation in your life that you are still harboring those feelings of anger and resentment, really diving into why and how is this benefiting me at this time, or is it not, and am I ready to let it go? Now, I am going to remind you that I'm not an astrologer. I'm not trained in astrology and everything like that. All the information that I present to you is research that I've done on my own. So I highly encourage you to go and do your own research as well. But I just wanted to point out that I am not certified in anything related to this. This is all just research that I've done on my own to give and present information to you to hopefully better help you navigate the energies that you might be feeling. We also, on the 20th, will have the moon squaring Pluto. And Pluto is kind of about our subconscious. It can be about upheaval and life changes. So this really might be with the energy of this full moon opposing or squaring Pluto. We might feel a lot of triggers from that. We might feel a lot of tension surfacing. You might be feeling frustrated and about things that you normally don't feel frustrated about. So that could be one of the reasons. And this really might be a time that provokes you to take action, to change your path. If you don't feel like you're walking in your own authenticity, if you feel like your path is off a little bit, this might provoke you to take that action to change that path at this time. Definitely always remember to be empathetic. If you're in a situation where you feel like you're in an argument or you're getting triggered a lot, come from a place of empathy. Tell yourself, okay, I'm feeling this emotion. It's okay. I'm human. I'm going to be feeling lots of different emotions, but recognizing what emotions you're feeling, and then also recognizing what other people might be feeling and what is causing them to say the things that they're saying or do the things that they're doing. So come from a place of empathy. When I think of Aries, I think of fire. And when I think of fire, I think of my tarot cards and I think of the wands. And the wands are all about creativity and self-expression and exploring. And so if you are really feeling the energy of the full moon, you might be feeling called to find a creative outlet. So maybe for you that is journaling. Maybe it is doing some art form. Maybe it's creative. Maybe you're creating your dinners, so maybe cooking, trying out some new recipes. So don't be afraid to try some new creative things this week. Now, diving into the energies of the cards that I pulled here for our spiritual reminders for the week ahead. I pulled 5 cards, and out of those 5, 4 of them are major arcana. So some of you are going to be going through either major life events or major path or life changes. I have pulled and seen the Death card so much over the past couple weeks, and it is presenting itself yet again. The Death card is nothing to be afraid of. It is the number 13. So if the number 13 is significant to you, this might be a card that's really standing out for you at this time. The Death card, these doors in the background are really standing out. It can be a time when one door is closing for another one to open. So I see this is the door shutting, and yet here another one opens. So it may be the end of something for some of you, maybe a time of endings. But don't forget that when there are endings, there are also new beginnings. So some of you are going to be stepping into new cycles, new paths in your life are going to be opening up. And that is actually really exciting. It's not something to be sad about. Something major might be ready to leave your life. We also have the Justice card. So if some of you are going through legal situations this week or coming up soon, this can just be talking about karma and the energy that we put out into the world. So really this week, consider the words that you are saying, the energy that you are putting forward, because anything that you put out there is going to come back to you. Think about speaking purposefully. We also have the Moon card, and I love the Moon card, especially since we are going to be having the full moon here. And this can also be talking about our dreams. So I feel like I talk about this often, but I feel like the Moon card pops out a lot. Pay attention to your dreams. If you're having nightmares, pay attention to those. What are your nightmares trying to tell you? What is trying to come to the surface at this time? The Moon card can also be a symbol of restlessness or feeling torn. If you have been trying to figure out which path is the right path for you, now is the time to really dive into that. This could also go along with the Death card. You know, it's could be representing a time of change. And then the cat is looking here into the water at its reflection. It's a time to reflect, which totally about the full moon, time of reflection and figuring out how you want to move forward at this time. What might be a time of change and fluctuation, but think about what secrets are trying to reveal themselves to you at this time. We also have the Chariot card, and this again, it's kind of like she's trying to figure out which way to go there. And so some of you might really trying to be making a decision, trying to figure out which path to take. Am I ready for this thing in my life to end so that I can start heading in this totally new direction? And it might be happening quickly. Some of you might be ready to make a move on something. The Chariot reminds me of movement, and a movement that happens fairly quickly. This is also a reminder that we are in control of the choices that we make. We get to choose which path we are ready to step into. If we are unhappy with a certain area of our life, what choice can we make to move that area into a better place? Something that we can feel more confident and happy about. And we also have the Page of Cups. So I think that this card is really getting into what I was talking about with some of you needing an artistic outlet. This can be about exploring different mediums, different ways to add a creative flair or your creative energy to something. Maybe using spices that you wouldn't normally use when you're cooking. Maybe it's trying a new craft. So for some of you, that artistic outlet is going to be really important for you this week. I pulled 2 oracle cards from my Everyday Witch Oracle, and we have air magic. So air magic is so lovely. We use air magic every time we sage. So if some of you have been feeling ill or sick, try really intentionally thinking about releasing that illness and sickness when you light up your sage or Palo Santo, whatever cleansing tool you might be using at this time. Be intentional. Be intentional when you are using any form of air magic. That could also be your breath. So maybe breath work might be important for you. Being very intentional about your release breaths, especially with this full moon. So thinking about what you want to release at this time as you're breathing out. I also pulled cleansing body and spirit. And for some of you, that might mean taking your bubble baths. It might mean getting in the water and envisioning the water running over you and sweeping away all of the negativity that you felt throughout the day, or any negative energies just flow down the drain. So that might be one way to do a spiritual cleansing. Some of you, it might be cleansing your body. You might feel called at this time to make some health changes. So maybe you do some type of cleanse or dietary change where you're kind of cleansing your body. There's one last thing that I wanted to hit on with the full moon in Aries, and I'm going to read it directly from my Moonology Diary by Yasmin Boland because I feel like this is super important here. The first thing to note about this full moon is that it's the first one in the new lunar cycle. The previous full moon was in Pisces, the last of the 12 signs of the zodiac, and Aries is the first sign. So if you look at the zodiac wheel, Aries will be the first one and Pisces will be the last. So we have our full moon in Aries, so it's the first full moon of that zodiac cycle. So if you want to see what happens in your life when you work with the full moon every month, now is the time to commit. So at this time, you might feel called to making a contract with yourself, writing down on paper, I honor the first of the full moons in the new 12-month cycle. I'm making a pledge to work with all of the full moons coming your way or coming my way in the next 12 months. So simply writing out in your journal, I plan on working with the full moon all 12 months for this cycle. In here it says, I pledge to work with the coming 12 full moons, forgiving, surrendering, and releasing resistance to my dreams. I really like that part. While working with the new moon is fun and amazing, it's working with the full moon and releasing resistance through forgiveness and surrender that truly allows us to consciously create our lives. Why? Because in doing that release work, we become more energetically clear And when that happens, it's much easier for us to send out our dreams to the universe. So that's huge. She says here to think of yourself like a radio. When you're energetically clear, you're tuned in to the right station on the right frequency and broadcasting your intentions clearly. In other words, what we feel is what we put out to the universe. What we put out is what comes back to us. So I talked about that earlier. So release anger and upset and resentment at the full moon, and you'll feel good. And when you feel good, you manifest, attract, create good things, consciously or not. So again, this Justice card is standing out for that. Thinking about the energy that we put out into the universe so that those are the things that we can attract. And the energy that we put out is not our releases. We are releasing that for the universe to transmute. Some things that you might be putting out into the universe that could come back would be things like gossiping or saying things like, I can't afford this. I'm never going to make enough money to be able to buy this. Things like that. Those are the things that you're putting out that you draw back to you. You wouldn't want others to gossip about you. And you definitely don't want to stay financially stuck in a situation where you're not comfortable and feeling in flow. So, making sure that we are intentional about what we say and who we're talking to and what we're talking about. And then also being intentional about the energy that we put out. I am abundant. I have so many things to be thankful for. And once you realize all the things that you're thankful for in your life, the universe will bring you even more things to be thankful for. So at this time, since we are headed into such a magical time of the year, I want to pull some magical type of cards. So I'm going to pull a card from my fairy oracle, and it's friendship. Fairies and humans alike need friends. Now is the time to seek out those who will support and encourage you on your journey to fulfill your dreams. So if you're feeling called to be a little bit more social, definitely give your friends a phone call and say, hey, look, let's meet up. Let's talk about our lives this far. Let's help each other set goals so that we can manifest certain things in our lives. So using your friends also to help support your dreams and to help make your dreams come true. I'm going to pull a unicorn card. Let's see what the unicorns have to say for us. Flow. Find an easier path forwards. Surrender the outcome. Release your expectations. So for some of you with this full moon, you might need to release certain expectations that you have. Maybe, this is just an example, if you have been trying to find the perfect partner and you just keep searching and nobody is meeting your expectations, or you have this image of the exact person that you are looking for in your head, but it's just not coming, release that into the universe. Definitely have your standards set, but then release that. The universe will bring you who is meant to be with you at the divine time that it's supposed to happen, and in its own way. So sometimes when we are too controlling, too nitpicky about the things that we want, then it doesn't allow our lives to flow in the way that it's supposed to. What is meant for us will come to us when it is meant to be. And the last card that I'm going to pull is a mermaid card. I am utilizing all my magical decks here for the moment. Well, most of them. All right. Beauty, grace, loveliness, integrity of form and spirit. So I feel that some of you are really going to need that reminder that you are beautiful, that you are perfect just the way you are. Sometimes we think of all the things that we need to improve upon to make ourselves feel more perfect. But in the eyes of who? So recognizing the beauty that you naturally have just for being you. That integrity of form and spirit. You have a beautiful soul. And what could be better than that? is who you are energetically, spiritually. The energy that you put out into the world is a beautiful thing. And this reminds me of a prayer. And I don't mean religious type of prayer, but just any type of words that you speak, that you're speaking out into the universe, is what I would consider to be a prayer. So the prayer is, hover over me, God, keep me in stillness, and keep me in grace. And I feel like that might be a good prayer for some of you, especially if you are about to go to bed, if some of you are about to head into surgery or maybe into an uncomfortable time period. Remember that prayer. It might be one that brings you a lot of comfort. And if you don't feel comfortable saying God, you can say, hover over me, keep me in stillness, and keep me in grace. So thank you so much for joining me. I had so much fun talking about this full moon and the weekly reminders from Spirit. So if you are looking for a more in-depth personal reading, you can reach out to me on www.crystallizewithkate.com. I'm still doing my October special, $30 for a small reading and $60 for a large reading. And otherwise, I will be seeing you guys later. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye.